Welcome to this lesson on skeletal muscle organization. So remember there are three types of muscles. So there are skeletal muscles, cardiac muscles, and also smooth muscles. But we are going to go over the organization of skeletal muscles today. So we know that skeletal muscles are very important for the movement of your body. So let's say that there's a bone here, and so skeletal muscles are connected to the bone by these connective tissues called tendons. And so the skeletal muscle is right here. And again, this would be the bone. This would be the tendon. And this would be our skeletal muscle, right? So if we zoom in on the skeletal muscle, so let's say we zoom in right here. Let's zoom in. So what does it look like? So the skeletal muscle is going to be made out of different levels of organization. So if we have kind of a cross section of our skeletal muscle right here. So this whole thing is our muscle. But inside, when we cut it open, we have these bundles. So these bundles of muscle fibers. So right here, I'm drawing the muscle fibers. So a good thing to remember when I mention muscle fibers is that muscle fibers are the same thing as saying muscle cells, right? So muscle fibers equal muscle cells, right? Muscle cell, right? So these bundles of muscle fibers are going to be called fascicles. So I'm just circling one of them. So this is called a fascicle. So a fascicle is a bundle of muscle fibers, as you can see here inside the fascicle, right? So what if we go even deeper into the muscle, right? So if I kind of pull out one muscle fiber right here. So let's zoom in on that muscle fiber, right? So let's say I want to zoom in right here. And let's look at a closer look at that. So again, we have our bundle of muscle fibers called the fascicle. So we got our muscle fibers here. And I pulled one out here to take a closer look at the muscle fiber. So since a muscle fiber is a muscle cell, it's going to have the characteristics of a cell or the structures of a cell. So muscle fibers have nuclei, right, or nucleuses. And they also have, remember, mitochondria, which is an organelle. So I kind of drew it right here. So, but also inside of muscle fibers, there's these very important structures called muscle fibrils, right? Muscle fibrils. So I'm just gonna kind of draw that in right here. So muscle fibrils are these long kind of slender structures that are responsible for the contraction of the muscle, right? So again, if I kind of label these again, so this is a muscle fiber. This is a muscle fiber, also called a muscle cell. And the muscle fiber has these structures called myofibrils. And also the muscle fiber or muscle cell contains nucleuses right here, a nucleus, and also mitochondria. Right. So what we're going to really focus on further is the myofibrils, right? So the myofibrils, because they are responsible for the contraction, right? So they're responsible for the contraction of the muscle. They are going to be the main kind of attraction here, right? So let's go further down here and look deeper into what a myofibril looks like. So I'll draw that right here. So myofibril. Right. So myofibril is going to be made out of what we call myofilaments. So made of myofilaments. Filaments, right? So the main types of myofilaments are going to be the following: actin and myosin. These are going to be our myofilaments, and they're responsible for the contraction of the myofibril inside of the muscle fiber or the muscle cell. So how do they look like, right? And how are they kind of organized, right? Well, we kind of drew it right here in a sense. The myofibrils are inside the muscle cell or the muscle fiber. But if we zoom in, right? So if I kind of zoomed in here, say this section right here, zoomed in here, let's look at what that myofibril looks like. So the myofibril is going to have kind of these sections called sarcomeres. So we have kind of this zigzag kind of border right here, and another zigzag right here. Right. And so along the middle, there's also going to be kind of myofilaments coming from this side right here. Oops. So basically, the filaments right here are called the myosin filaments, and they contain these heads right here called myosin heads. And what they do is they attach to the actin filaments, right? So let me just label that, right? So this is called the myosin filament in red, and in orange or yellow, these are called the actin filaments. So the actin is actually connected to the Z line right here. And so the myosin, with the myosin heads right here, these structures are going to latch onto actin, and it's actually going to pull it towards the center, right? Towards the center. And the center is called the M line right here. So the myosin is kind of connected to that M line right here. So keep in mind, when this kind of pulling towards the M line happens, this is actually going to be contraction, right? The action of contraction. So when this happens with the myofibril, the muscle fiber, the muscle cell, is also going to contract. It's going to shorten. And as a result, the whole muscle is actually going to shorten or contract, right? So really, it all starts with the myofibrils, which are composed of these myosin and actin myofilaments, right? So this was just a brief overview of skeletal muscle organization, and I hope this helped you. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.